We have come far south. Beyond here, the oldest women shelling limas into black shawls. Portillo scratching his name on the walls, the slender ribbons of piss, children patting the mud. If we go on, we might stop in the street in the very place where someone disappeared, and the words, "Come with us," we might hear them. If that happened, we would lead our lives with our hands tied together. That is why we feel it's enough to listen to the wind jostling lemons, to dogs ticking across the terraces, knowing that while birds and warmer weather are forever moving north, the cries of those who vanish might take years to get here. Taking a comfortable seat, just arriving. Maybe with your hands facing up in that relaxed position of receptivity on your lap. And then just aligning everything, straightening the back, lengthening the neck by a millimeter. Arching the chin just a little. And then beginning with all those closed spaces in the face, the muscles around the eyes, around the jaw. Just letting it all relax and down the neck. And at the level of the heart, just opening all the doors and the windows, letting the drawbridge down, as I like to say. Sending the border guards home. Of course, that's where we're going today, sending the border guards home. And then in the belly, just relaxing and letting go of that pose of defense. Just feeling the miraculous gathering that happens here every Friday, and each other's willingness to come to a kind of border, a kind of edge, to meet everybody else. Just feeling your feet flat on the floor. And then lengthening the breath to a count of 4 going in. And a count of 4 and a count of 5 going out. Four counts in. We breathe in whatever news we read this morning, whatever slight obstruction or bother entered our mental sky this morning. And then to the count of 5, we breathe it out. Four counts in. Maybe something deeper. An old quarrel. A little sliver of an unforgiven flaw in yourself or someone else. And then in the forge of the heart, we take the lead and turn it into gold. And we breathe it out to 5. And 4 counts in, maybe even going deeper, going closer to the edge of that challenge zone. A dissatisfaction with how things are. Just first saying yes to it, taking it into the forge of the heart, and then just with that fire, turning it into gold and breathing it out to 5. And then as we breathe it out, we just make a vow to ourselves to relieve suffering however we can, wherever we can. For each of us, the border is different. Some of us can only get so close without stepping into a traumatic zone, what Pema Chodron calls a danger zone, where we're actually incurring trauma on ourselves. Don't go there. But just to the edge of discomfort. Making that vow to relieve suffering however we can, wherever we can, at whatever level we're at. We have come far south. Beyond here, the oldest women shelling limas into black shawls. Portillo scratching his name on the walls, the slender ribbons of piss, children patting the mud. If we go on, we might stop in the place where someone disappeared, and the words, "Come with us," we might hear them. If that happened, we would lead our lives with our hands tied together. That is why we feel it's enough to listen to the wind jostling lemons, to dogs ticking across the terraces, knowing that while birds and warmer weather are forever moving north, the cries of those who vanish might take years to get here. The speaker in this poem from The Country Between Us, a 1981 collection by Carolyn Forché, which offers an account of her 2 years traveling back and forth to El Salvador to write about and bear witness to and be engaged with as an activist the campesino uprising at that time, the Civil War. And in this poem, which is about a border in California, an anonymous speaker is standing on the edge of something and going no further. If we go on, we might stop in the street in the very place where someone disappeared. And the words, "Come with us," we might hear them. So there is a threat that lies just beyond where they have come. And the speaker says, that's why it's enough. That's why we feel it's enough to listen to the wind jostling lemons, to dogs ticking across the terraces, knowing that while birds and warmer weather are forever moving north, the cries of those who vanish might take years to get here. So they are standing in a place where there's no activity, there's no danger just now, but they're listening for it, that their role is to be the listener and the vigilant watcher. And even in that word, ticking across the terraces, and of course, the cries of those who vanish, taking years to get here, there's a kind of endless patience in what the speaker is offering. So the poet in this poem is playing the role of archaeologist. As an archaeologist, you're standing in a place where nothing is happening, but you're digging down into this Pompeii of history. And it takes a lot of work. It takes the work of toothbrushes and the work of gentle fingers to draw out of that dirt all of what has happened and to tell the true story. Of course, I chose this poem because it's, even though it's 45 years old, it tells a story of danger and border crossings that are very much a part of our consciousness now. The whole poem is about borders. It's about the vertiginous closeness, as Milan Kundera describes it, of opposites. When I teach this poem in my classes, I always have the students go through and just circle all of the opposite clashes that are occurring here. And it's so beautifully organized, where we have come far south and the cries of those who vanish are coming north to meet us. Even in the line breaks, the ribbons of piss, that there are these gentle ribbons on the one side and then this, clinical description of the body on the other. All of these opposites of tenderness and harshness, of non-activity and danger are clashing to meet at this border. And I think what's significant for me is that as the speaker is moving toward the border, those voices of those who vanish are coming back to greet them. And I've found this in my own spiritual journey. I can only speak for myself, but I know that as I edge toward the border of something else, whether we call it self annihilation, or whether we call it recognition and awareness. But as I edge toward that scary border of losing all of these veils that I call myself, something bigger is coming to greet me. And that if I wasn't making that journey toward it, it would not come toward me. And that this whole path has been about me extending the boundaries of my challenge zone to get closer to it, because I know that whatever it is, it's me. The other side of this is the poet as activist, that there is something historically relevant about this poem. It's not just a mystical insight, you know, in the story of Jesus and Martha and Mary. There's Mary who's praying, and Jesus is saying that this is just as important as washing the dishes and doing the work of the house like Martha is doing. But there is a Mary quality to this poem, and there is, of course, too, a Martha quality of this poem, the hard work of what poetry is trying to do to present to us the reality. And I just want to read a little quote from Simone Weil that Seamus Heaney has included in his wonderful collection of essays, The Redress or the Correction of Poetry. Simone Weil says, obedience to the force of gravity is the greatest sin. This is Heaney now. Indeed, her whole book is informed by the idea of counterweighting. Her whole book is informed by the idea of counterweighting, of balancing out the forces, of redress, tilting the scales of reality towards some transcendent equilibrium. So what the poet does is ask themselves and ask all of us what really happened here. Let's hear the poem again. San Onofre, California. We've come far south. Beyond here, the oldest women shelling limas into black shawls. Portillo scratching his name on the walls, the slender ribbons of piss, children patting the mud. If we go on, we might stop in the street in the very place where someone disappeared, and the words, "Come with us," we might hear them. If that happened, we would lead our lives with our hands tied together. That is why we feel it's enough to listen to the wind jostling lemons, to dogs ticking across the terraces, knowing that while birds and warmer weather are forever moving north, the cries of those who vanish might take years to get here. Getting back into that comfortable seat. I would like to think of this second half as a dig, an archaeology of an old city. Augustine calls it the city of God. And to remember the work of toothbrushes and tender fingers that help us to reveal what really happened here. Softening the face, and then doing it again, and letting the shoulders fall. and feeling that conduit between the heart and the head, opening up and aligning. And as you do, the walls kind of open and the ceiling rises. And the rooms we're sitting in feel much larger because we're extending beyond the bodies of those aggregates, the physical form or our emotions or our thoughts, all those tangles that keep us in clumps, separate from everything else. This work is just really a great untangling. And as you approach that widening, that opening, it might be possible to feel something coming to greet you. In the talk about the Tao, these writers can't help but speak in paradoxical language, a darkless dark, a darkness within darkness. In this poem, we have the North coming to meet the South. And as you feel that boundary of what you call yourself widening, track your thinking. Just follow it. And then pay attention to the gaps in between the thoughts. That's like finding a statue underground or the roof of a house in an underground city. Those gaps in thinking are the real you. It's like the negative Pompeii body formed by where the lava was not. Here's Thomas Merton. In order to find God in ourselves, we must stop looking at ourselves. We must stop checking and verifying ourselves in the mirror of our own futility and be content to be in Him and do whatever He wills according to our limitations, judging our acts not in the light of our own illusions, but in the light of His reality, which is all around us and in the things and people we live with. This is all we did, was to just follow our thoughts until we reached a gap. And then with the archaeologist's toothbrush, just gently hold that up to the light. Just lengthening the breath. 4 counts in, 5 counts out. Putting that smile in the heart so that it reaches every cell of your body. San Onofre, California, by Carolyn Forché. We have come far south. Beyond here, the oldest women shelling limas into black shawls. Portillo scratching his name on the walls, the slender ribbons of piss, children patting the mud. If we go on, we might stop in the street in the very place where someone disappeared. And the words, "Come with us," we might hear them. If that happened, we would lead our lives with our hands tied together. That is why we feel it's enough to listen to the wind jostling lemons, to dogs ticking across the terraces, knowing that while birds and warmer weather are forever moving north, the cries of those who vanish might take years to get here.